Colonial Parkway murders were the homicides of at least 8 people along the Colonial Parkway in southeast Virginia between 1986 and 1989. The Colonial Parkway is a 22-mile-long thoroughfare that cuts through the Colonial National Historic Park and connects Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown. Long stretches of the road are devoid of street lamps or road lights and are extremely isolated, making it a popular Lover's Lane location frequented by young adults. In each instance, a young couple sitting in a vehicle was targeted and both were killed. 3 pairs of victims were recovered, and another couple remains missing and is presumed to be dead. Other homicides have also been tentatively linked to the 4 confirmed cases. The causes of death include strangulation, gunshot, and stabbing. There's no evidence of theft or in any of the cases. The killer drove his victims' vehicles away from the murder sites. The linking of the 4 crimes is circumstantial, and no suspects have ever been publicly identified. In 1986, Kathy Thomas was a former naval officer working as a stockbroker in Virginia Beach, Virginia. In the spring of 1986, Kathy had started dating Becky Dowski, who was a student at William and Mary College. The couple was last seen by witnesses on the William and Mary campus on October the 9th. 3 days later, on October 12th, Kathy's car was found at a favorite hangout of the couple near Virginia's York River, just off the Colonial Parkway. Both Kathy and Becky were in the car. They had been strangled and stabbed. On September 19, 1987, David Knobling met Robin Edwards. They were hanging out with friends in Newport News, Virginia. They decided to go to the Ragnard Island Wildlife Refuge, a local makeout spot about 20 miles south of the Colonial Parkway. On December 20th, an Isle of Wight County deputy found David's truck on the island. The keys were in the ignition. The radio and the windshield wipers were on. However, no one was in the truck. On September 22nd, a jogger found David and Robin's remains on the banks of the James River, almost a mile from where David's truck had been found. On April 9, 1988, Keith Call and Sandy Haley, both students at Christopher Newport University, went on their very first date in Newport News, Virginia. Sandy and Keith were last seen that night at a party. Eyewitnesses say around 1:30 they prepared to leave, as Sandy had a 2 p.m. curfew. The following morning, a park ranger reported an abandoned car at the York River overlook off the Colonial Parkway. The vehicle belonged to Keith. However, as of this recording, neither Keith nor Sandy have ever been found. On September 4th, 1989, Daniel Laura packed up his car to move from Amelia County, Virginia to Virginia Beach. He was going to move in with his brother Clint and Clint's girlfriend, Anna Maria Phelps. Anna Maria went along for the ride. They never made it to Virginia Beach. The next day, Daniel's car was found at a rest stop on the westbound side of I-64 in New Kent County. 6 weeks later, hunters found Daniel and Anna Maria's remains about a mile from the rest stop.
None of the couples killed on the Colonial Parkway from 86 to 89 knew each other. Their murders remain unsolved. The FBI is offering a $20,000 reward for information leading to prosecution in these cases. If you have any information about the Colonial Parkway murders, call the Virginia State Police or the Norfolk FBI office.
The following are possible victims of the Colonial Parkway killer or killers.
On August 17, 1984, Michael Margaret and Donna Hall told their families that they were going camping for the weekend.
Appears to be 2 suitcases, your back, clothes, and a bag.
Before leaving the Richmond area, as they had told their family, they visited some friends around 11 o'clock, 11:30 that Friday night on the 17th.
This is a door that's found open.
Their friends said that they left their house a little around 12 o'clock in the morning on the 18th now, and everyone assumed that they were going to go camping.
Now we're going to go inside of the Jeep.
No one heard from either Mike or Donna for the rest of the weekend, and as Monday rolled around, Donna's parents became very concerned, as well as Mike's parents, and filed a missing persons report with our division. In the late afternoon on the 21st, a retired dentist who owned quite a bit of property out on Patterson Road, Patterson Avenue near Gaskins, was walking through the wooded area. This dentist was walking his dog in the wooded area and came across a Jeep that was backed up into a small ravine, a sunken area. He noticed that inside the Jeep there were splatters of blood. The passenger's door was open. He continued to walk a little bit further down a trail into the woods and noticed a blanket that had just been happening to be laying on the ground. That didn't really draw any attention to him until he noticed two bodies laying very close to one another. He immediately backed out of the area, called 911, and the police department responded.
He was an all-around boy. Loved to hunt and fish. He had a dog that he carried everywhere with him, except the night he was killed. And he didn't take a dog at night. But any other time a dog was up in a Jeep right beside him. I just get tired of when I try to talk about it. He just tore the family all to pieces.
I was right here. We were at the house. I was having a going away celebration for a friend of mine who was going to college. And we had a lot of people over here that night when the detectives had come over and let us know what had happened. So we had, we knew that he had been missing for a couple days up until that point, and we really did not know what was going on. We thought maybe at one point that maybe Mike and Donna had probably went somewhere and gotten married and just hadn't let anybody know. But again, that was really not like him to not let anybody know what was going on. But like I said, we were here, we were having that gathering, and that's when we found out. So it kind of tore us up. That was a very rough night.
My wife, she passed away. She just grieved herself to death over his death. So we've been married, 13 years, didn't have any children. We adopted him. Then we had 2.
He was 21 when he passed and I was 18, and we were just getting to that point in our lives, getting more into an adulthood stage that's something that I'm never going to get back. I'll never move forward with him on what his future would have been.
We know that there are other people out there in the community that knew Mike and Donna and associated with them, and we feel that there were probably some other people, obviously, that either knew that this was going to take place, knew that Donna and Mike had quite a large sum of money on their persons, and knew that maybe a murder was not necessarily going to take place, but maybe a robbery was going to take place. And the robbery escalated into, unfortunately, a homicide. And we know that there are probably some people out there with that information of who Donna and Mike saw last on the very early morning hours of August 13th, 1984.
Were there more Colonial Parkway murders? 10 on Your Side's Andy Fox has covered the murders since October 1986. 4 double murders, couples in cars at night. The first case was 35 years ago when Kathy Thomas and Rebecca Ann Dowsey were found murdered in Thomas's car. Tonight, Andy Fox asks, were there more Colonial Parkway murders than that?
Over a 6-month period of time, 4 people are thrown into the James River. 2 of them are considered part of the Colonial Parkway murders. But what about the other 2? The timeline and location, intriguing. Newport News resident Brian Pettinger and Gloucester County's Lori Ann Powell. Her mother, Joanne Compton.
It's funny, you know, you say the pain you had that day and how you feel today, but the truth is that pain never changes. It's always the same pain.
As we reported, in 1988, Compton's daughter, Lori Ann, argued with her boyfriend, demanded he drop her off at this Gloucester County Little Sioux, never seen again.
33 years later, I still have no idea.
Brian Pettinger's former wife doesn't want to be identified. He disappeared December 4th, 1987, leaving this Hampton dance studio. 2 months later, Pettinger's body, seen here, found floating in the James River.
That's when it'll be pulled out of the drawer.
Consider us now pulling the case out of the drawer. With this stunning timeline of bodies pulled from the James. In September 1987, David Knobling and Robin Edwards, considered part of the Parkway murders, turn up dead in the James River, both shot in the back of the head. 3 months later, Pettinger disappears in February, found with wrists and ankles tied, rope around his neck, blunt force blows to the back of the head, he drowned. 2 months later, in April, Lori Ann's body found near Craney Island, stabbed 5 times in the back. Then, 1 week later, on April 10th, Keith Call and Cassandra Haley disappear from the Colonial Parkway, never to be seen again. In 7 months, 6 murders. Have you been disappointed that you have not been included in the discussion of the Colonial Parkway murders?
Yes.
Pettinger and Powell never considered part of the Colonial Parkway murders because those cases involved couples and staged cars. But Pettinger says, come on, look at the timeline.
I think the timing of all the murders certainly brings in the factor that they could be connected.
Not only timeline, but Pettinger and Powell worked together at Liberty Security Services in Gloucester County. And Robin Edwards' mother, Bonnie, told us she worked there too, but had left before the tragic loss of her daughter.
It's beyond coincidental that they all worked or had connections to Liberty.
The Liberty connection so striking, FBI interviewed Liberty owner Ron Little, who told us back in April 1988.
They asked me face to face, did I kill them? And I said no. Did I have anything to do with their abductions and disappearances? And I said no.
The FBI concluded Little was not a suspect, then deported him to New Zealand on immigration charges.
You've got 7 legal pads of handwritten notes.
Suffolk police consider the Pettinger case open. However, new evidence hasn't been submitted since he was killed 33 years ago.
Sometimes things are just not just coincidence.
We asked Suffolk Police Lieutenant Gary Myrick, could Pettinger and Powell be connected to the Colonial Parkway murders based on this timeline?
anything's possible. That's a small time frame when it comes to homicides in a specific area. So I'm not going to tell you that it's not connected.
Following our investigation, Lieutenant Myrick has agreed to review the Pettinger physical evidence for DNA testing in the lab.
When I die and I see Lori again, she'll tell me.
That's when they'll know.
That's when I'll know.
33 years of not knowing is enough time for the families. If you know anything about what happened in these cases, please call the crime line, 1-888-LOCK-YOU-UP.